Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm George.
I'm Stav.
Today we're going to be working on Stav's build, part 632,000.
That's about accurate.
633,000, actually, I was off. I'm sorry. Just to be accurate for those that are reporting live from the Audi community, we want to make sure that the news industry and the Audi world has all the facts. As 632,000 part 1 or part 2?
Well, you just said 633, so you got to get your numbers
Okay, so it's 33. Okay, just making sure. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to be working on Stav's 12-valve VR6 build again. We're going to be progressing and talking about some of his tubular manifold, the fabrication we're going to be doing, his new electronic goodies that he has, and some other things that he's taking out of the car and putting in the car. But without further ado, let's kick off this episode and let's get over these parts so we can get to the fabrication, the goodies, the installation, and the actual work.
All right, so we have my brand new small KL4 turbo here. Well, it's actually not a KL4, but it is a
KL4 Sport.
It's a KL4 Sport. It's an F21, but it's a 82 millimeter Borg Warner. It is a S482. It's quite a large turbo with a 1.25 AR.
So did you run? You didn't run out of turbo on the last build when you lifted the head. So
well, this is what happened.
Work on the turbo side of it with a tubular manifold, like upgrades, and then we were going to work on maybe some
this
other
is the
things.
This is the thing. I bought a 76 millimeter turbo last time. You bought a 79 millimeter turbo. So now I have to buy the 82 to compete.
So you lifted a head on a what?
76.
And now you went with
82.
All right. So the logic is sound. Continue.
Correct. So I mean, I went with the new turbo basically because I can and because I wanted to. But overall, for some of the new goals we want to do with the half mile, I definitely don't want to have any back pressure issues, so we're going with a very large turbo.
Okay, cool. We also have some goodies for some of the fabrication portion we're going to be doing. So as you guys saw in the last episode, we were adding these EGT and then EMAP ports on the back. We were waiting for the flange to come in so we could weld that on. Stav also has his dump pipe, little hood hater pipe exits that came in both for the 4-inch turbo and then also for the wastegate. I ended up having some stock for some small little pipe cuts so we can end up customizing this and fitting it to getting it going into the car and then popping out of that hood perfectly. And we're also going to be kind of mocking up his downpipe to make sure he has a street version of this setup so this way he could drive it around and not have any issues. Well, at least not issues, but he'll have an exhaust setup. And
there's no issues with my car. Never. Yeah. We know. Yeah.
So continue on, Stav. I see some new changes. We got a new ECU here. What's going on?
Yes, we're getting rid of VEMs and going with EMU black.
And now tell us, because it's a really sticky situation as a lot of people are using VEMs. You know, why would someone go with VEMs as opposed to a newer ECU?
Well, in 2014, we went with VEMs. In 2021, we're going with EMU black because there's a lot more support. It has a lot more inputs, the ability to run 6 EGTs. A lot more tuning options and safeties.
Like what? So what didn't you have on your old VEM setup?
Drive-by-wire.
Okay, drive-by-wire. What else?
6 EGTs.
6 EGTs.
The ability to add EMAP. The ability to add a coolant pressure sensor. Just overall safeties. And on top of that, it's much more updated today in 2021. That's what happens in 7 years with ECUs.
Now, again, you talked about support. You know, what's the difference in support?
Well, for example,
VEMs compared to like EMU Black, or let's say any one of the big top tier ECU brands like Haltech or anything like that.
Well, Haltech is a very good option also. Like VEMs, I wrote an email 3 months ago. I'm still waiting for the reply. But EMU Black, I called them and 15 minutes later, they read a reply right back.
And we have a couple people locally that, 12-valve VR6 guys, 1.8 guys that had switched to EMU Black from VEMs.
Our buddy Troy.
For the same issues, not for the issues but the concerns. Obviously the safeties and then the lack of support. I think it's just one dude over there in VEMs that's pretty much responding to everybody.
Correct. I mean, it's very hard when you have a bunch of guys using it, but also we don't have the ability to add on to it. After we run out of inputs and outputs, there's no adding on because there's no canvas. Where with EMU Black, we're able to run a canvas extension to run the 6 EGTs.
Sick. All right, cool. So you got all your accessory pieces. We got the new stud kit. We got the new copper nuts for the mounting of the turbo itself. Looks like you got some knock sensors that came in, some new coils. Correct. So you're switching now from your regular
Waste Spark, Bosch MotorSports coil pack to individual, R8 coil packs.
So the same coil packs I'm running on my 3.2 VR, you're going to be switching on your 12.
Correct. After we saw how nice it runs and how easy it was to wire in.
And how cheap those things are.
Yeah, $20 a piece. I mean, you can't beat that, and they are Bosch, so they're a good brand.
Okay, cool. So you're actually getting rid of that distributor pack too?
Yeah, the coil pack, correct. Yeah, correct.
All right, awesome. So we're going to make a lot of room. Actually, the distributor pack was in his rain tray, so that's all going to be gutted and gone.
That's probably where we're going to put the catch can.
Okay, perfect. So that's going to give us a lot more room in the engine bay. So Stav, let's go back here. We pretty much got everything set up. What's going to be the plan for this video? What are you gonna want to do? What's the plan?
The goal is to see if George could actually weld this flange on.
Okay.
We're gonna mock that up, maybe possibly mount a turbo today, and then maybe start on the downpipe again.
So where's the manifold gonna bolt up to? Because Stav, I don't know if you've noticed it, but your motor, it's got no head on it, man.
Well, I was thinking about Bluetooth, the same way that I'm gonna run my ECU. No, we're gonna mount the head back on, put the manifold back on, and then mock the turbo on, so that we could kind of see where the fitment and overall what else needs to be modified. Because this is a giant turbo.
So are we doing your downpipe or hater pipe first?
Probably downpipe.
Okay, so we're gonna be doing your downpipe to the actual 4-inch system that's there.
Right.
So we'll be modifying that.
We're gonna have to chop that flange off that we had for the 3 5/8, which is the precision flange.
Got it.
What's the name? And go to the straight 4-inch V-band style. So will definitely be easier to get that mocked up once the head is on.
All right, let's get to work. So listen, that about wraps up the intro. You guys got a list of all the parts. I'm gonna have Stav mount his head, get everything on there on that motor, since it's basically just a mock-up motor now. I'll weld and tack that flange up to that turbo manifold. We'll get the turbo bolted up, and then we'll start seeing what kind of changes we need to make to this downpipe. Because now there's a 4-inch flange on the back of this giant turbo, as opposed to the Zono rotor turbo that he was using before. It was roughly 3.5-inch, and we had to get a 3 or 3.5 inch?
3 5/8 to 4-inch adapter.
So now I'm gonna have to remove the adapter that we welded pretty much on this downpipe. Get rid of that, so it's not going to go to a larger flange. Cut this nice and clean, and then weld that new 4-inch V-band on there. So make sure he has a true 4-inch exhaust system going back. So we'll be mocking up in today's video. So let's get to work. So kind of cleaned up the tabletop. I'm going to be heavily tacking the flange to this tubular manifold. I do have a bunch of solar flux mixed up. Added a little bit of alcohol. And I'm waiting for the consistency to get just right. I'm going to line the inside of this tubular manifold with the solar flux. For those of you guys that don't know, solar flux is an amazing way for hard to reach areas, or just areas where it doesn't make any sense using purge. Instead of having argon, you can coat this on the back of the metal and it protects it completely. So I'm going to be lining that up on the back of the manifold and kind of cleaning it up a little bit. And then mounting this, tacking it, and then mounting the turbo, so then I can start making and fabbing up Stav's new downpipe. I have my stainless cut Furic gas lens that's gonna be on there for the stainless. I got a whole bunch of tungsten that I ended up grinding and kind of getting ready, so this way I don't have to just keep etching and kind of sharpening the same old pieces. And I'm gonna get to work right here. So we're gonna coat the back of this with a little bit of mud, and then we'll put the manifold up, line it up, or not the manifold, the flange, line it up, fucking coat the back of that a little bit, and then just put some nice tacks on there with some 309 stainless wire, which is really good at welding dissimilar metals. So from steel to actual stainless steel. So kind of excited to get this going, as I've never modified a manifold like this before. So to do this for the first time and kind of refab that downpipe, it's going to make this kind of a little bit more close to home as I'm helping Stav kind of get his whole build together. I also have a bunch of smaller tubing for his wastegate and the Turbo Smart flange. So I'm going to be making him some new wastegate piping too, both for the downpipe and then also for the hater pipe that's going to come out of the hood, and also the wastegate exit that's also etched and it has this kind of teardrop shape to it. So kind of excited. Let's get to work. Back on for mock-up purposes only. We tack welded in like 15 places the flange, bolted up the turbo, and it looks like the old downpipe is pretty much there. And we may just need to hammer in this side of the frame, this over here, this column, and then just use a small, maybe 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch, 4-inch straight to that flange, and not have to do any major modifications. But it looks like it lines up. But the kind of cool thing is, where we took a picture for that Instagram post, it looks like I was pretty spot on where that turbo placement was going to be. Stav?
That turbo is massive.
That thing is huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
So, you know, we had a problem with lifting heads before, and the problem wasn't the turbo, but we went with a bigger turbo.
Yeah, the problem will be this time actually lifting the turbo.
Yes, yes, definitely. All right, so I've been massaging this over here with Stav. We actually had to hammer in the little column here a little bit, but this 4-inch downpipe will clear going down. I got the flange pretty much mocked up, so I'm going to mark it and then tack it, and then I'm going to take everything off, mount it on top of the table, and do the full weld. But now Stav has a full 4-inch downpipe going to the back of a 4-inch flange, rather than, you know, almost 3.5 inch, barely going to 4-inch now conversion. So
Correct.
4-inch turbo back complete.
And luckily we didn't have to add any spacer, just had to cut it off and weld the flange because it just lined up perfectly.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Thank God for me measuring the first time we did this.
Right. So we managed to just tack the shit out of this flange without warping it.
And why do we tack it, George?
Huh?
Why do we tack it instead of fully welding it?
So I actually ran out of 309 stainless rod, which is really good for welding dissimilar metals. At least that's what I found online. Correct. So we have some coming in the next day or two. So I just used some really thick stainless filler just to kind of do tacks, kind of stitches all the way around for now. And then I'll bead weld it once everything's in. So I can still fully weld the downpipe. Now I'm gonna do that on the table, so that won't be a problem. But for the flange to the turbo, I'm gonna wait another day or two till that comes in, and then I'll seam weld it. But for this video now, we have your brand new turbo kit pretty much done. And then
massive that is, dude. So we have the manifold, turbo, and downpipe now mounted on the welding table.
So we mocked it inside the car as you guys saw. I'm gonna lay a couple more tacks on the backside. It hasn't opened up yet, so it's actually pretty good. I didn't put too much heat on the top tacks. Once I tack it in a couple more places, I'm gonna keep the V-band flange tightened down. As I did mess up a couple flanges in my day with it warping, not doing it off. Doing it off the car with not the flange kind of made it together. So when I put too much heat into it, it started to like bacon out. So now I'm gonna keep it kind of sandwiched together with the V-band clamp, and then I'm gonna do like little stitching, inch at a time increments here. As you can see, I did the same thing pretty much when we made his downpipe originally. So just little stitching here and there with stainless. So it is a stainless flange along with the stainless downpipe, so I don't need 309. I'm going to be using just a standard stainless rod. I'm going to be adding just a little bit of filler. I know a lot of people like to do, what is it, autogenous or autogenous welding, but with the vibration and the beating that this car sees, we're going to be just throwing a little bit of rod into it. So
is it autogenous or autogenous?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
It's both. It's both. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Let me just weld it real quick, and then we'll wrap up this video. I'm done. Stav, do you approve? Did it pass your approval?
I don't know about stack of dimes. More like snack of nickels. You know what I mean?
So check this out. So I made this downpipe for Stav when I just started welding stainless. As you can see, there's going to be a huge inconsistency in the style of welding, where I was good, or at least I thought it was good, and then I wasn't, or I was, and it went back and forth.
Excuses.
But now starting to get a little bit better laying these down. I'm really starting to, like with the torch, just being able to stabilize my hand and keep it going instead of like shaking or catching myself, and just getting comfortable. So I'm doing like a dry run as I'm going around. Running about 70 to 75 amps on this, moving fairly quick. Using some like 3/32 almost stainless rod. Again, I wanted to make sure that the pipe is as strong as can be with all the, abuse Stav's going to put the car through. But I think the flange to the downpipe came out really nice. And then now it's no longer a taper down or a taper up, so to speak, from the turbo. Now it's true 4-inch turbo back. So I won't lie to you, Stav, I think it looks good. Your turbo kit is officially pretty much done. I'll wait for the filler rod to come in so I can finish the actual flange, and we can just kind of seam weld the flange, but that's tacked in like 15,000 places. So I think, Stav, for tonight on this, I think we're pretty much set where we are. Correct. Hopefully the rod comes in today or tomorrow. I'll finish that off, and we'll be able to mount it, and then we can do the modifications to the compressor housing we were talking about. So the V-band flange, the silicone coupler flange with the hose? Yeah, the serrated hose to go on there and catch.
Forgetting the name.
I keep forgetting it. Yeah, I'm not so good at that stuff.
From FFE, serrated hose, one we used last time, didn't blow off a pipe at 50 pounds of boost.
So correct. I'll weld that on there, and then Stav wants to put a small vacuum port here that will either tap or weld, probably most likely weld a small little bung here. So this way he's got a vacuum reference there for the gate. But it's coming out good, guys. I still did the repairs you guys saw on the manifold. That's still looking good. I can't wait to seam weld that up. Again, I didn't make this tubular manifold, someone else did, so we're modifying it and cleaning it up a little bit and making it look better. But overall, I think we're getting better with this fabrication kind of welding aspect. Things are starting to look really good, and I'm really happy about it. So anyway, guys, we're gonna wrap this video up. Today's gonna be part 632,455 and .00021 in Stav's build. I think so. So guys, new turbo mounted, new turbo fabricated in terms of everything where it's supposed to be in terms of the downpipe.
New ECU is in? New ECU is in?
Well, yeah, the new ECU came in. Stav's going to start as soon as I get everything fabricated and done, and we understand where the intercooler piping is, so Stav's going to be waiting on me for that. Stav's going to work on making himself a custom wiring harness for his B5, and then also get the EMU Black ECU in the car, and then start, testing.
No longer drive-by cable?
Oh, it's going to be drive-by-wire. I'm excited. Ooh. Oh, yeah, let's talk about that for like 10 seconds. What throttle body are you going to go with?
82.
It doesn't matter what kind of throttle body you're going to go with. So, guys, we're going to wrap up this video. Again, making forward progress on Stav's build. Now that we're waiting on the RS3's machine block to come back, we're staying busy, staying productive, working on Stav's car, getting it to the next level till he's ready to 24-valve VR6 swap it. So, guys, without further ado, I'm George.
I'm Stav.
Thank you guys for watching. This is Malaka MotorSports, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode where I attempt to convince Stav to 24-valve VR6 swap his 12-valve. Love you guys. See you guys in the next episode.